This is Goku's son, DBZ. And sorry this video's recording a little bit later than normal, but I was out watching San Andreas, and I may be doing a movie review of that after I record this one. We shall see. But let's get this vlog started. Today will be the top 12 best sci-fi movies. Last week I did top 12 worst sci-fi movies, or biggest pieces of crap, if you will, in science fiction. Now, this is a compiled list based, one, off of popularity among critics and viewers alike from Rotten Tomatoes, based on also people's opinions like YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and also taking into account personal, friends, co-workers I have. And as I said before on the last video, my personal opinion only makes up one vote in the overall picture. This will not be my own personal list. It will be strictly neutral overall. Now, so don't expect some of these tops to be in other people's top lists. And of course this is top 12, not top 10. Why top 12? Because I like to go 2 steps beyond. In particular, Watch Mojo. Anywho, let's get this vlog started. Coming in at number 12. A classic from Steven Spielberg. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And yes, this truly is a masterpiece, or a modern classic, at least in the science fiction genre. Because when it came out in the 70s, science fiction, was making its way on television, things like Star Trek, Outer Limits, Twilight Zone, Lost in Space, and things of that nature. But in movies, really, at that point, you didn't really have too many big science fiction movies at the time when Close Encounters of the Third Kind came out. It was one of course, Spielberg's earlier works, and it really has gone down as probably one of his more beloved films as a result. But it really did pave the way for a lot of good science fiction, alien-type movies in the future. So you have to give it to Spielberg. He really is perhaps at least the greatest modern director, if not the greatest director. But let's get on with number 11. It's both a science fiction movie and sort of a disaster film all in one. Starring Will Smith. And, well, sadly, anywho, it is none other than Independence Day. Yes, that's right, Independence Day, which of course is also done by Spielberg. Spielberg has done quite a few actually really good, solid movies. Now, some people would say this movie is kind of a stereotype type thing. To an extent, that would be yes. But at the same time also, if you look, for instance, at starring roles, this is perhaps one of the more definitive roles for, obviously, Will Smith. To this day, this is probably, a lot of Will Smith fans would agree, if you ask a lot, that Independence Day is perhaps one of his best movies. I mean, as him as, the main star, basically. But it's a really awesome movie, and Will Smith was really awesome, especially when he punched that alien and said, "Welcome to Earth." Just awesome right there. And to be fair, the explosions and stuff were really good for the time period. The special effects, in the 3D graphics and things like that, hasn't really aged too well compared to some other science fiction movies. But you still can't deny that Independence Day was definitely probably one of the highlights, at least of the late 90s in Hollywood cinema. Because a lot of your disaster films had, in general, just really bad acting. Case in point, Twister. And a few others. And of course the Michael Bay explosion fest called Armageddon and Deep Impact. But in a lot of people's views, at least in acting and areas and at least some interesting characters, Spielberg's Independence Day is superior to most other disaster films of the late 90s, without a doubt. And it's, to be fair, even though the graphics haven't aged well, still overall, it's become really an icon in pop culture today. Now that the 90s is retro, anyways. Here's number 10. Coming in at number 10, also starring Will Smith and directed by Steven Spielberg, Men in Black. And of course this is the first Men in Black. Men in Black 2 really wasn't that good. Now, some people may agree or disagree. Men in Black 3 in some ways was better than the second one. Now the third one, of course, technically, well, we'll talk about that some other time. But the first Man in Black was amazing and awesome. And to be fair, in special effects department, it actually aged in some ways better than its counterpart, of course, Independence Day. But I'd say if you ask a lot of people, definitely Men in Black is in a lot of people's opinions, probably Will Smith's best movie. And it became so successful, of course, it spun off 2 sequels that made it a trilogy. And it also ended up also having an animated series, which, to be fair, was actually really good. Somewhat dark compared to some kids' cartoons, but it was good overall. But, yes, number 10 goes to Men in Black, the original. Coming in at number 9. Coming in at number 9. Aliens. Some people would say, why is Alien not on here instead of having aliens on here? Well, if you look from some aspects, the original Alien was more of actually a horror film than an actual science fiction movie. Yes, Aliens does have your elements and stuff of horror, but it still has more science fiction elements to it than horror. It's basically a science fiction slash horror. The first one was more of a horror slash science fiction. It had elements of sci-fi, but it was predominantly horror themes. Where Aliens is predominantly science fiction with elements of horror. So that's the basic gist of it. Coming in at number 8. 2001, A Space Odyssey. Which, of course, ended up creating in some pop culture. Some people would say it's definitely a cult classic. Because box office-wise, at its time when it came out, 2001 A Space Odyssey was not that successful at the box office when it came out. Now, over the years, it's become a statement in science fiction American pop culture. And has a lot of references. And, of course, a lot of it is thanks to the robot HAL 9000. Without a doubt, is the major reason why that movie has become so big, and probably also movies like that is a reason why humans have a hesitance to keep relying more and more onto technology. With good reasons. Because it's hard to say when enough is enough on technology advancement. But definitely, 2001 A Space Odyssey, if you've never seen it, I highly recommend to check it out. It's a really good cult classic in science fiction and general sci-fi or in general cinema. I highly recommend you check it out. Coming in at number 7 is the only comic book, movie based on a comic book to be on this list, but it is definitely, even though it's a comic book movie, it still overwhelmingly has more science fiction element in it. The overall theme of the movie is science fiction, and Sorry about if you're hearing a sound right now. Anyways, and that is Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. Without a doubt, Guardians of the Galaxy, really good movie. It also made on to lists I did in the past, top 12 best comic book movies of all time. Now, that was my own personal list. That wasn't a neutral overall list. So, I just want to make that statement, but number 7 goes to Guardians of the Galaxy. Really great movie overall. Star-Lord was awesome in it, or should I say Chris Pratt did a great job. And I personally thought stole the movie, but a lot of people say either Rocket or, of course, Groot stole the film. Just depends on who you ask, I guess. Coming in at number 6, Disney's Tron. And yes, just like 2001: A Space Odyssey, Tron was not a huge box office hit, just like 2001: A Space Odyssey, but it's become really influential on American pop culture and science fiction. It's become definitely a cult classic over the years. And to be fair, like the special effects of its time in like 82, when I believe it was the original came out, the effects were considered amazing for their time. And to be fair, in 82, yeah, if you look at our movies from that time period, yeah, the special effects were a whole lot better. And it's understanding how it became such a cult classic. It's a really interesting movie. And, of course, the arcade game was also pretty cool. Coming in at number 5. Another movie from Steven Spielberg. E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Some people would say that it should be higher, but of course, it depends on who you ask, and based on overall votes from people that I talked to and tallied opinions from and looked at opinions online, this is where E.T. comes in at, is number 5. People would say, why does Spielberg have so many spots on the list? Because Spielberg was very influential in the sci-fi genre. He partially did for sci-fi the same as, of course, of writers and stuff, the same thing that the great Gene Roddenberry did. He really helped expand science fiction in general. Involved and definitely expanded somewhat in movies, but Gene Roddenberry was a lot more influential on the small screen on television. If you look at his properties, was a lot more influential there, where Spielberg was more influential on the big screen. And his movies have really connected through generations, and E.T. is definitely will definitely go down as probably one of the best classics. Some people might consider a modern classic or whatever you will, but is probably one of the greatest science fiction movies ever. Not to mention it didn't hurt boost sales of Reese pieces as well on top of it. Coming in at number 4, Star Trek: The First Contact. Some people would say, why is Star Trek II: Wrath of Khan not on this list? Well, if you look at a lot of people's opinions on Star Trek with Trekkie fans, it's pretty much a draw between that movie and this movie, First Contact. But at the box office and stuff of the earlier movies and stuff, First Contact was one of the more successful ones at the box office. And if you look at, like, for instance, critics and viewers alike, opinions on Rotten Tomatoes and places like that, you will see that more people regard First Contact better. And it's aged better. And, of course, the storyline and stuff from First Contact also helped influence the last Star Trek series, of course, that being Enterprise. But Star Trek is a great, solid movie. First Contact, awesome, because let's face it, pretty much anybody who considers themselves a Star Trek fan or a Trekkie is a big fan of the Borg. And, of course, we had the Queen of the Borg in the movie. And Also, the Next Generation crew is more beloved than the original Star Trek crew. Yes, you have greats like Leonard Nimoy, but let's face it, when it came to the captains, Kirk didn't stand a chance against Jean-Luc Picard, and, of course, Patrick Stewart as Jean-Luc Picard. But, definitely, without a doubt, First Contact deserves number 4. Coming in at number 3, Terminator 2, Judgment Day, which is one of the reasons for so many people's fears of the advancement of technology, robotics, and the advancement of artificial intelligence, if you will, thanks to movies like this, which, of course, has the rise of Skynet, which becomes eventually self-aware, and, of course, the movie Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, but Terminator 2 is definitely the high point of this franchise. Terminator 1 was really good. A lot of critics actually thought Terminator 1 was the best, but if you ask overall audiences and look at box office and things of that nature, you will see that Terminator 2 Judgment Day is the most beloved of the franchise if you talk to most normal science fiction fans and not critics. And to be fair, the special effects also were a lot better in that movie, and the acting was good too. So a lot of people loved the T-1000, which was a pretty awesome movie, to be fair. Coming in at number 2 is considered somewhat of like an adventure, and also has elements of horror, and also but overall it's really a predominantly science fiction, though some people may disagree, and that is Steven Spielberg, Jurassic Park. Definitely, of Spielberg movies, Jurassic Park is Spielberg's most successful movie ever. If you look at like critic acclaim, fan acclaim, and to be fair, the special effects were done in like 94, 21 years ago, and they still look good by even today's standards. And the animatronics actually added a more like living feeling and stuff to the dinosaurs, like the T-Rex and stuff, than, to be honest, the later Jurassic Park movies, and from what I've seen so far of the looks of Jurassic World. Jurassic Park is the best movie in the franchise. My opinion, and most people's opinions, in all honesty, if you ask most people. It is regarded as the best of the franchise, and by a lot of people is considered to be Spielberg's best movie. And if you look at box office, it did over $700 million. It was the largest grossing in the world, movie-wise, until Titanic dethroned it. So they held that spot for like 4 or 5 years in the 90s. But here's a couple honorable mentions. Tron Legacy, District 9, Ex Machina, War of the Worlds, the original, not the remake. And there's so many other really good science fiction movies, it's kind of hard to say all the years. But also one honorable mention to Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. And now, number 1. Coming in at number 1 from George Lucas, Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. And without a doubt, Empire Strikes Back is the best of the Star Wars movies thus far. Of the original trilogy, Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back, is the best, as well as the darkest, and of course gave us the biggest surprise in cinema history, perhaps, when Darth Vader told Luke Skywalker that he was his father, Anakin Skywalker. Everybody in the theaters, I'm sure, given I wasn't around back then, would have been floored, and probably their jaws just dropped, stunned, and just complete paralyzed, and can't even speak. But it's really interesting if you think about it. But yes, that's the top 12 best sci-fi movies, and next week will be the top 12 best sci-fi TV shows. So stay tuned for that, and stay tuned just in case I end up doing a review of San Andreas starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So, we'll see about that. And tomorrow, I may be doing a review. I'm going tomorrow to see Insidious Chapter 3, the prequel. So I'm very much looking forward to it. But, this is Goku-san, DBZ, as always. Peace out. Hopefully someday we do. And I'll see you all next time here in YouTube land. And I hope you enjoyed this. Subscribe. Give me suggestions for future reviews, like of stuff you maybe like to see me review, or top lists for the future. Give me ideas. Tell other people about my channel. Follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/GokuSunDBZ, and also follow me as well on Google+. And anyways, I'll see you next Sunday or whenever.